Imagine being financially successful. You lose your job, yet you're required to continue paying child support at the rate of an income you no longer earn. Welcome to the Custodial Support Forum. With each episode, we discuss issues related to one of the largest problems in America, child support. Hi, my name is Kai Patterson, and I'm your host. In this episode, we'll discuss the resources available to non-custodial parents that owe child support arrears. And we're going to discuss how to avoid the pitfalls within the child support system if you are a non-custodial parent.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Are you owed child support?
Does the non-custodial parent of your children avoid your calls, hide their income and assets, or has relocated to prevent paying child support?
The Custodial Support Foundation provides you with the services to begin receiving the child support your children need.
Call 855-851-HELP now to receive the help your children deserve.
Welcome back. We're discussing issues related to non-custodial parents. We're talking about issues that deal with non-custodial parents specifically that have lost their jobs and yet are still required to maintain their child support obligations. You're a police officer. Should an arrest warrant be issued against a non-custodial parent that has lost their job and can't meet their child support obligation?
They can't make the child support obligation part.
Because they're unemployed.
Well, if they can show good faith that they are trying to, do something, then I would say no. But if they just, I lost my job, now I'm going to duck my responsibility, then yes. So I think it's probably a case-by-case basis. It depends.
Okay.
I have to agree with you, Darrell, because that was what I was thinking. It depends on the case entirely.
I agree. And I agree with both of you. Absolutely. Now, moving on. Is it possible, once a non-custodial parent has a warrant, okay, for them to go to court and before entering into some type of payment plan, or better yet, is it possible to enter into a payment plan with a warrant and have that warrant lifted and not be apprehended?
That depends on the state you live in.
Okay.
And quite honestly, most courts prefer to discuss ways of making it work.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't believe anybody wants non-custodial or custodial or anybody else. It costs the taxpayers money.
That's
right.
right.
It is a burden on the children. It is a burden on both custodial, because they have to deal with full-time with the kid around the clock, child, and non-custodial, because they're dealing with the threat of being arrested and often being incarcerated. Everybody at the end of the day knows that is not likely to be the best option for any part of this family.
Well, I can tell you this. In this economy, first of all, once you're arrested, it makes it even more difficult to find a job. When you've got to fill out a job application, and there's that, I call it the death box. Have you ever been arrested? And you have to check yes. You have significantly limited, or your ability to be hired is significantly limited. Now, take your situation. You had never been arrested before, right? And yet, once you were arrested because they wouldn't reduce your child support obligation, they damaged your ability to even find a job.
Well, I have to go into job interviews wearing an ankle bracelet now, and you have to convince somebody that you're wearing it because you're unemployed, not that you did some other crime, that's what they would assume.
Wow. And once that, I mean, does that help a child? Does that help the child? Because once you take one of the parents that's providing child support and you reduce their earning capacity, are you truly helping the child?
Well, you didn't ask me the question of whether someone should be arrested, and I think it's just counterproductive to the whole process.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. You think it's counterproductive?
It's not in the best interest of the children, and it's not. I was arrested in front of my children. It's not in the best interest of my ex-wife.
In your circumstance, I'm sure there are a lot of people that will agree. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will agree. But moving on, what should a parent do, a custodial parent, if they owe arrears? Okay. What programs are available? What services are available? No, better yet, what's the first thing? If you owe arrears and you know you owe arrears and a warrant has been issued for your arrest, what's the first thing that you should do, Alex?
Make a payment so that when you have to go in for your two-week review, which is what it would be in New Jersey, that you can say to the judge, I'm making a good faith effort to pay.
So you should make a payment even before getting an attorney?
Yeah, there's no reason not to. If you can afford to make a payment, do it, because the judge is going to look on the longevity of time that you've been making a good faith effort.
Okay.
And they have discretion whether or not to enforce or not enforce. If you know you're in arrears, go get yourself a job the day before you're going to the hearing. What judge is going to believe? I'm just saying, for example, you got a job one day. You go in and you say, Your Honor, I got a job. I'm making a good faith effort. You are going to get laughed out of the courtroom, basically, because it's not sincere. You got somebody who comes in, has been working through the steps, working through the process, has consistently, even for a month. The judges have discretion. So it isn't like you have a warrant and suddenly you're picked up. That's not the way it goes.
Well, we know that. Excuse me. Okay. What happens if you have a warrant, you have to make an appearance, you don't have a job? Would you suggest getting an attorney?
Oh, yeah. And there's several resources.
There's also the amnesty program. Talk to me about that.
The amnesty program is an interesting program because the project is designed to help both sides of the argument. Basically, it is in everybody's best interest if custodial can collect and if non-custodial is contributing. As far as I'm concerned, if those two things go on at the same time, it's in the best interest of the child.
Okay. You went through that program, correct? What was your experience?
My experience so far has been great. I mean, I went from the work release to the home confinement, and the next step is to work on getting a downward modification, which is what I desperately need. But
they were able to reduce your obligation, immediate obligation, from significantly to what, like $100 a week? I understand it's something in that range.
My condition of release was reduced by 20%.
Wow, that's significant. I mean, that is significant. So I mean. Talk to me some more about the program, Alex.
Basically, what we do is we'll have an attorney meet with people who are not just have warrants, but typically people who already have found themselves in some sort of incarceration, work release, home confinement sort of situation.
Driver's licenses suspended and things like that.
Right, and the thing is that what they are able to do is put a condition, work on things like a condition of release, work on letting probation know. And you know what, during that time,
letting probation know, don't lose that thought. Go ahead. You were saying letting probation know. I want to get that thought out. You said letting probation know.
Well, what it is letting probation know the situation, and what they will do is they will hold off sometimes, not all the time, on a warrant. There's nothing automatic about when it lifts and when it doesn't.
Gotcha.
But if there's an understanding, like I said, in arrears may continue to accrue.
Right.
If you can't make the full amount. But it's unlikely that you won't be able to at least negotiate what would be an acceptable amount to court and to not have a warrant executed against you.
Okay.
What they'll do, they can do things like 2-week warrant status, meaning if you don't pay in 2 weeks, the warrant's going to be reissued.
Gotcha.
Or and those amounts to be paid,
Okay.
including a portion towards arrears,
Okay.
they can be negotiated, but the arrears amount is not going to, they're not going to say, okay, let's cut a third off of your arrears.
Right.
So the amount of money at the end of the day for the children is
Remains
the
in
same.
effect. Right.
Right. It's just the length of time that they're permitted to pay for it.
Well, you know, this has been very, very informative. I mean, Ari, you know, I can say I sympathize with your situation because, you know, to damage a non-custodial parent's earning capacity, you know, I thoroughly believe does not help a child. You know, I mean, you're in the financial industry, you know, it's very difficult to find a job in that industry unless you have a stellar background. I mean, financial institutions are required to do background checks, and yet, you know, your situation, you know, put you in a position where you could not get a downward modification, which subsequently was a jail sentence there. Because when you can't get a downward modification and you have a substantial obligation, it's only going to be I mean, you have a very short window before the system will trigger a warrant. Well, that concludes this episode. We want you to stay tuned because we're going to come back with another part dealing with issues related to non-custodial parents. We're going to talk about specifically, is the child support system fair to non-custodial parents as well as custodial parents? Thank you.